guys, happy Tuesday. We're going to finish our book, Night of the Ninjas. So Jack and Annie were deciding whether or not to follow Peanut or to go through the water. So number 9 is called Mouse Walk. The mouse vanished into the tall grass on the other side of the stream. Jack and Annie stared at the tree branch. "We have to try to cross it," said Annie. "We're supposed to follow nature." "Forget it," said Jack. "It's too little. It'll crack in a second." "Maybe if we pretend we're mice we can do it," said Annie. "Oh, bother," said Jack. "Not again. If you could be a rock, you could be a mouse. Just be teeny and light and fast." Jack took a deep breath. "We have to," said Annie. "Okay," said Jack. "Say squeak," said Annie. "You're nuts," said Jack. "Just do it," said Annie. "It'll help you feel more like a mouse." Jack groaned. "Okay," he said. "Squeak." "Squeak," said Annie. "Squeak, squeak, squeak," they said together. "Let's go, hurry," said Annie. Jack stepped onto the branch. "I'm teeny, I'm light, I'm fast," he thought. Then he darted across the branch. Jack moved so quickly he didn't think about anything except getting to the other side. He forgot the wind, freezing water. He forgot the smallness of the branch. Suddenly Jack was on the other side. Suddenly Annie was right beside him. They laughed and fell together into the grass. See, the branch didn't break," said Annie. "I guess it was big enough," said Jack. "I guess we just had to think the right way." "The peanut way," said Annie. "Yeah," said Jack, smiling. He felt great. He was still wet from his fall into the stream, but he didn't mind any more. Jack pushed his glasses into place and stood up. "Okay, now we just have to find the tree house," he said. "No, we don't," said Annie. She pointed up. The tree house was outlined against the moonlit sky, high in a tree surrounded by white flowers. In the distance came the sound of voices. Then Jack saw flames. "The samurai are coming back," said Jack. "We have to go." "Where's Peanut?" said Annie. "We can't leave Peanut." "We have to," said Jack. The voices of the samurai were getting closer. So were their torches. "Come on," said Jack. He grabbed Annie's hands. He pulled her toward the rope ladder. "Oh, Jack," she said sadly. "Go, go." Annie started up the rope ladder. Jack followed. He felt sad, too. He liked that tiny little mouse now. He liked it a lot. They climbed up and up. Just before they got to the top, Jack heard it. "Squeak!" "Oh, wow!" cried Annie. "Peanut's inside." Annie pulled herself into the tree house. Jack followed. He gasped. Someone else was in the tree house, too. A dark figure was sitting in the corner. "You have done well," the figure said. It was the ninja master. "You have followed the way of the ninja," he said. "Oh, man," breathed Jack. "Squeak!" The master was holding Peanut. "Take good care of your little helper," he said, handing the mouse to Annie. Annie kissed the mouse's tiny head. "And take this," said the master. He held his hand out to Jack. He gave Jack a small round stone. "This moonstone will help you find your missing friend," the master said. Jack stared at the stone. Was this one of the 4 things? "You must go home now," said the master. He picked up the Pennsylvania book and handed it to Annie. "Where did you find it?" asked Jack. "Here," said the master. "You did not see it before because your heart knew you had a mission to complete first." "What about you?" said Annie. "Can you come with us?" "Yes," said Jack. "We need help finding Morgan." The master smiled. "No, my friends. I must stay here. There will be more help along the way, but you must find the way on your own." Annie opened the book. She found the picture of Frog Creek. She pointed to it. "I wish we could go there," she said. The wind started to blow. The white flowers started to shake. Clouds covered the moon. "Remember," the master said, "keep a kind heart." Then he swung silently down the rope ladder. He disappeared into the dark night. "Wait," Jack called. There was so much he wanted to ask the master about nature, about ninjas, about their mission. But the treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Jack gripped the stone in his hand. He squeezed his eyes shut. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. All right, here's the ninja master with Peanut and the stone. Okay. Chapter 10. Last chapter. Night, Peanut. Jack opened his eyes and he opened his fist. He stared at the moonstone in his hand. It was clear and smooth. It almost seemed to glow. "We're home," said Annie. "Squeak!" Annie and the mouse were looking out the window. Jack looked with them. The sun was setting in the distance. No time at all had passed in Frog Creek. They heard their neighbor's dog, Henry, bark. They heard crickets chirping. In the distance they could see their dad step out of their house. He stood on their porch. Jack, Annie, he called. Time for dinner. Coming, Annie shouted. Jack sat back on his heels. He looked at the moonstone again. I guess we have one of the 4 things, he said. We'll look for the other 3 tomorrow, Annie said. Jack nodded. They had a lot more work to do. He put the moonstone in his pocket. He pulled on his pack. Ready, he said. Wait, said Annie. She took off one of her sneakers. She pulled off her sock. Then she put her sneaker back on. What are you doing, said Jack. I'm making a bed, she said. A what? A bed, for Peanut to sleep in. Annie picked up the mouse. She tucked it into her sock. Night, Peanut, she said softly. Squeak. Oh, bother, said Jack. Annie held the mouse close to Jack. Kiss it goodnight, Jack, she said. Don't be silly, he said. Let's go. Thanks for helping us, Annie said to the mouse. All right, see. The mouse is going to sleep in Annie's sock. What a nice little girl. She put Peanut gently down on the glowing M. She pulled Morgan's message out of her pouch and put it next to the mouse. See you tomorrow, she said. Then she started down the ladder. Jack stared at the mouse. It looked back at him. For a moment, its dark eyes looked old and wise. Come on, Jack, called Annie. Jack kissed its tiny head. Night-night, Peanut, he whispered. Then Jack headed down the rope ladder. It got darker and darker as he went down. By the time he stepped onto the ground, it was almost completely black. Where are you? Said Jack. Here, said Annie. Her hand bumped it. He took it. Careful, he said. Careful yourself, she said. Together they took off through the cool, dark woods. They moved silently and swiftly in 2 shadow warriors, just like 2 shadow warriors returning from home. Oh, well, that's interesting. We don't know what all 4 things are yet. So our next book is Afternoon on the Amazon. For today's reading assignment, we're going to practice writing. You can answer in your Foundations journal, okay? That way you have the nice, neat lines to write on, okay? So we're going to start. We have 4 things that we need. Must help Morgan. Remember when we were reading the first 4 books, we had clues because we were trying to figure out who M was. We had the medallion, we had the bookmark, we had something else, and we had the M on the floor. And you guys kept it in the cute little picture backpack. This time we're just going to keep our notes in here. Must help Morgan with face. So clue number one is the, what do you call it, the sunstone? I was in chapter 9. A round stone. This moonstone. So the first thing we got is a moonstone. Okay. We're going to draw a little moonstone here, okay? Here's our moonstone. Must help Morgan. So our first clue, because she told us we had to find 4 things to be able to help her. The first one we found was the moonstone. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. What other things do you think that the kids are going to find? So your question for today is, what do you think the other 3 items are? Okay. What do you think the other 3 items are? Remember, you can use this spot and you can use this spot down. You can use your pages over here. I want a complete sentence, capital letter, punctuation. You start your sentence with, I think the other 3 items are blank, blank, and blank. Okay? So the next, I'm sure there's going to be one in each of the next books. So our next 3 books. Oh, I don't have. Those aren't in order. Well, we know our next one is in the Amazon. Annie in the Amazon. So what do you think? That could be your clue. They're in the Amazon. What do you think they're going to get from the Amazon? Okay. And then the other two books, Magic Tree House book 7 and 8. Well, number 8 is Moon. Okay. And number 7 is the Saber Tooth. Okay. So we've got the Amazon. We've got the saber-tooth, which is the cold, like Arctic area. And then we have the moon. So what other 3 things do you think we're going to get from those books? I can't wait to see your answers. I'll put this up on Dojo so I can read them before we start our next book tomorrow. All right, guys. Have a great Tuesday.